Joining me now is Sky News contributor Darren Grimes. Darren, wonderful to see you as always. Thank you so much for joining me. What on earth is going on here?
Yeah, Danica, you put it really well there. I mean, when he was elected, right, saying, I'll smash the gangs, all he ultimately ended up doing was smashing the grands by actually taking away their winter fuel payments. That's all he's managed. 30,000 since he was elected, that 28% increase. And this year, it's going to be a record bumper year because we're having some pretty good weather here in Britain already. He's supercharged the problem. And so far, in 1 week, in one single week, we've had the European Court of Human Rights, who is there basically to fatten the wallets of human rights lawyers by trade, which Keir Starmer actually is, by the way. They place illegal immigrants' feelings over national security and fact. Most recently, guess who's in front of the European Court of Human Rights? None other than Hamas. Oh. Because nothing says I'm not a terrorist quite like being a bloodthirsty, barbaric quartet of rapists, beheaders and Jew haters. And they're saying they want to get rid of their terrorist status in Britain. It's not about border enforcement, right? This is a reality show called Britain's Got Excuses. And I'm afraid that the taxpayer is the one that's fronting its production. If Starmer was serious about stopping the boats, he would leave the ECHR, but he would never do that because that's one way in which he fattened his own nest as far as the quagmire of human rights laws and all the rest of it are concerned. You know, I was thinking, Danica, John Howard, he once said that Australia had the right to decide who comes to their country and the circumstances in which they come. That's all we're asking for here in Britain. It only takes one jihadi lunatic to sleep through the net and be able to wreak havoc. And when that happens, and if that happens, the government will simply shrug their shoulders and move on. And I'm afraid the British public are fast losing patience with being a complete lawless hellhole that they have enveloped us into and rolling out the red carpet for absolutely anyone who can get over here in a dinghy.
Yeah, anyone can come, and you're right, though, John Howard. I mean, if we could all adopt a policy like that, I think the world would be a much better place, particularly the UK, Darren. Now, look, this is a really serious one. Labor has dropped its commitment for 5 inquiries into the grooming gang scandal. And Darren, there was a cover-up at the highest level, as we know, due to the fact that these crimes were committed at the hands of mostly Pakistani men. Why do you think Labor has now scrapped its plans to investigate this further?
Because ultimately, when it comes to Labour, if it's not vote winning, it's not happening. And the Labour vote is vastly different to what it once was when Britain was a mining country, for example. This isn't just my view, by the way. This is Sir Trevor Phillips's view as well. And he's not exactly some flag-waving right-wing shock jock like me, right? He is the former head of the Equality and Human Rights Commission, a lifelong Labour man and voter, and he himself expressed his complete and utter fury. He called this a utterly shameful moment for the Labour Party and obviously political. And he's absolutely right. Labour dropped these inquiries because the offenders in these cases were predominantly Pakistani Muslim men, and the victims here are white working class girls, and it happened in Labour-run towns. So Labour's so-called Safeguarding Women and Girls Minister, Jess Phillips, or should we say, actually, I would describe her as the Minister for shrugging and eye-rolling whenever someone mentions grooming gangs and the ethnicity of them, because her seat, Danica, her seat is 45% Muslim, and she almost lost it last year to a Gaza independent. She was just 693 votes away from losing her seat in Birmingham. And let's not pretend and let's not fall for anyone that says that this isn't political. It's not about safeguarding victims. It's about safeguarding their own jobs. And quite frankly, it makes me sick. I haven't seen anyone so uncomfortable at that dispatch box like she was. It was almost like, remember Prince Andrew trying to explain his inability to sweat in a Pizza Express? That's what she looked like. But instead, we're talking about these girls being failed by the establishment class and an inquiry into them. It's utterly sickening, Danica. That's what it is.
It is, and I feel for the victims in this case, Darren, because they want answers, and Labor are clearly not giving it to them. So I just think it's just terrible. Now, look, let's completely change the pace here. I've got to ask you about Prince Harry, because he's now claiming, quote, that his life is at stake, would you believe, in his ongoing fight over UK security arrangements. He's, of course, been in a London court this week arguing that he and his family should receive a form of publicly funded protection while in the UK. But here's the catch, Darren. Harry has now gone and met with war victims and veterans in a little surprise visit to Ukraine. So can you make sense of the fact that Harry wants security in the UK at the expense of the taxpayer, but, well, willingly flies to Ukraine in the middle of a war zone, but that's okay?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the idea that Donbass and wherever in Ukraine is totally safe with bombs falling out of the sky, almost as much as Meghan's dropping new plugs for some kind of expensive jam, it just doesn't make sense. You know, the Harry and Meghan show is where logic goes ultimately to die. He's too unsafe to walk the streets of Windsor, but he's totally fine to walk the streets of a war zone where missiles are falling every 2 seconds. And 1 minute he's telling a court he's completely under siege, yet taking selfies in Kyiv like you wouldn't believe. He gave up these royal duties, cake and charity in Blighty for Netflix land, and he trashed the royal family to make millions in interviews and in memoirs. And now he says the taxpayer ought to pay for his police protection because he might get recognised here in Britain. I mean, he says his life is at stake, but it clearly isn't. And you've got the millions. You've got enough to bankroll your flights around the world and all the rest of it. We do not need in this country to have to bankroll Prince Montecito's ego tour. And I think that's what this is, Danica.
Well, it always is, isn't it? It's always about the ego. It's always about Harry, always about Meghan. And Darren Grimes, we love talking to you about it. Thank you so much for joining me on the show this evening. Good to see you. Thanks so much.